the Hamas.
Hey, good morning, folks. We're gonna get started in just a minute. I think I'm louder than the actual microphone, so that's why I'm taking liberty.
Oh, yeah. That's right. Funky PA, yeah. Once is for civilized folks, not for villagers.
I am, yes, dear. I've got that down. There's a phrase you have to remember. Yes, dear.
This is the, and I was,
In general, Sherry, I was.
so I have a note on that.
Johnny, I can bring the agenda up on the screen here if you'd like.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah, that's sure. That'd be great.
I don't know if anybody can read it.
It's worth something.
Thank you. Yeah. Good morning. Buenos dias. Let me get started here. Let's start this meeting. Call to order. Roll call. Who do we have down on the end there?
Rick Snow.
Sherry Jones.
Ken Martinez.
Barbara Boyd.
Johnny Martinez.
Ed Bowles.
And absent would be Cynthia Nava and John Perea, unless they logged in, I'm not sure.
I believe Cynthia is up in Santa Fe at the legislature. I'm not sure about John.
Okay, all right. Okay, so we need to approve the agenda for this morning.
I move approval of the agenda.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And we need to approve the minutes. Barbara forwarded them via email. I'm trusting everybody got a chance to look those over. So do I have a motion to accept those minutes?
So moved.
Second.
We got 2 seconds. Second one, second
Good for
two.
you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all righty. Okay, great. All right, so this morning, we're going to talk about the review of our committee's work and then the discussion for moving forward, and then we'll let all you folks talk. If you haven't signed up, please do so quickly. And I'm just going to reiterate, hopefully, if you're going to speak, that you bring up something new to the table. It's not something that we've already addressed before. And then we'll talk about future agenda items, and then we'll adjourn. So, review of committee's work. We recently had those open forums. I hope those worked for everybody as far as answering some of your requests to make things public and get the word out to the community. We did some data crunching. Sherry did a lot of work on some survey stuff, and so I know that it was Ken, Ed, and Sherry. And Barb got together this week, and we're looking over some of that. So why don't one of you folks speak to that, and we can have inputs accordingly.
Okay. To go back to the forums that we had, most of you were there. So you know how many people we had, but the first forum on Thursday, we counted approximately 130 to 150 people. And 30 participants provided input into that. The second was attended by slightly less, about 110 to 120 participants, with 19 people providing input to that. Barb and Ed and I reviewed all the data to date. So remember I told you about the 29 categories that we've added probably another three categories to that based upon the public forum input. So we have included all the public forum input into that data already. So we have a much richer database now. That does not include the survey data because the survey is still open. We are closing that survey on February 1st, today, at midnight. So if you have friends or family or neighbors that have not filled it out, please tell them to do that before midnight tonight. The reason for the midnight deadline is because on Saturday, Ed and Barb and myself and Sherry are going to meet in the morning, and we're going to go through all the survey data. and put that into the database in terms of how it might fit into those 30-some categories. So at the end of that process, we will have as much data as we've been able to obtain based upon all the meetings from the very beginning to this one. We'll include your comments today in that database as well. So we are going to undergo a process that, I'll share with you right now in terms of how we're going to go about doing things between now and March 7th, which is when we are due to present to the council. So between February 2nd and February 9th, we're going to be analyzing the data, combining all of the different sources. And we're also going to be incorporating the qualitative data from the survey. I'm sure many of you put in your comments into those empty boxes, and we're going to go through all those comments in the survey as well, besides the quantitative data that you submitted. So all that's going to be done by February 10th. The final tally will be ready for discussion and distribution at the February 15th meeting. So you'll get a tally sheet with all the different categories and all the numbers of comments that we attributed to all of those categories. Then on our next meeting on February 15th, we're going to do a little bit of a different process, and Barb will explain that.
So I have talked with Arnold Farley. He is a organizational development specialist who's willing to help us facilitate our next meeting on the 15th so that all of us can participate and give input. He does this regularly. He did this as a living. And so we're excited that he is willing to do this for us for free. He has the ability to take complex and seemingly unrelated information and make it easily understandable, relevant, and useful. He has tools that will enable us to get to some recommendations at the next meeting on the 15th. Because our time is short, we're trying to gather all the data, prioritize that data based upon your input, and then we will start to work on recommendations that'll go into our paper. So that's kind of our process. The concern I have, and I need the committee's input on this part, the concern that I have is he says it may take up to 3 hours to do that process. And so we have a couple of options. We could start at 9 and go to noon. We could start at 10 and go to 1, or we could ask him to try to really make it down to 2 hours. So Melanie, you have input on this too, from a facility perspective.
I was going to recommend that maybe the meeting be in the community center, just if it's going to be more of a collaborative thing, so you can be around a table. That building is free all morning that day. I do have another standing meeting at 10:30, so
Okay.
if you wanted a Zoom, we'll do like today where I'll start it and then Sky will come in and
Sky
finish.
comes in.
So I'm not gonna be here on the 15th. I've got a previous engagement. But my thought would be that if you're so able to as a committee, it's easy for me to throw it to you since I'm not gonna be here. But if you're so inclined, maybe you could meet with this gentleman beforehand so that we can still keep the meetings here public for the people. So you guys can discuss what that might entail, and then come in here at our scheduled time so that you guys can discuss what you've discussed publicly in front of everybody. But I don't know what the time would, you guys would have to figure out the time for that.
So we would just have to say that also would be an open meeting if all of us are together.
If everyone is there, yeah. And it can still be an open meeting in that people can attend it.
Right.
Just if you have it in the community center, obviously we don't have the same Zoom capability.
Right.
But right now, and I think Johnny's made this point before, it may not be that people are Zooming in, but the recording process allows us to have people watch it later.
Yeah, I'd like both.
And we do have the capability, if somebody has a digital audio recorder, you could record it, the audio, and we could post the audio to our website, not to the YouTube channel. So that's always an option as well.
Well, the other thing you might consider is, I mean, you could meet and then have your break, because if it's going to be that long of a meeting, you probably want a break, and then move it over here for everyone else. I don't know. You guys are going to, I'm not going to be here, so you'll have to hash that out.
I prefer to have it in here, have it recorded, have everybody participate. The purpose of a facilitator in part is so that we as committee members can participate freely and openly, just like you, and just be one group as opposed to us in two different groups, and just have a good full discussion. If you can have Melanie, someone relieve you, I think that would be,
That's what she said.
that would be
I
nice.
mean,
This guy would
I have a meeting at 10:30 every other Thursday, same weeks that you guys meet. So, yeah, so I can ask Sky if, and we've already planned to have her come over on the 15th if need be. So
So why don't we
that's not a problem.
compromise and do 2.5 hours?
Okay.
Yeah, I just need to know, because right now on the website, we have you listed as meeting at 10 a.m. So we need to get that updated as soon as possible so that people aren't thinking that we're,
Here at night?
9 to 11:30? Does that sound good to everybody?
It's okay with me. All right, thank you for that.
So do we need to take a vote on that?
So I will put it into a motion. I move that we meet at 9 o'clock on Friday, the 15th in council chambers. Oh, it's Thursday, sorry. Thursday, the 15th in council chambers and be Zoomed. So I moved. Rick seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, great. Thank you.
And then the next step after that would be between February 16th and 28th. The committee begins to draft a preliminary report with recommendations. Then we meet on the 29th, which is our last meeting. And at that last meeting, we propose to review and discuss the preliminary findings and recommendations in the meeting. And of course, at every meeting, have public comment at the end. But that would be our last meeting. And so everybody would know what's going to go into the report. The essence of the report would be discussed at that meeting. And then the committee would write the final report between March 1st and March 6th to submit the final report on March 7th.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a procedural question about that. Because we serve at the pleasure of the mayor, can we release the findings of our report prior to the village receiving it? I didn't,
They're preliminary.
Unless you want to have it in the public packet, and then I read it the Friday morning meeting.
I just wanted to make sure we weren't doing something to mess up the process. And if we just keep it to generalize things and not actually say what's in the report, we'll be okay? Okay. No. Okay. Okay, that's great. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so is that,
At the last meeting, I recommended that we ask the council and the mayor for an extension of 3 months to actually try to do something with the findings of the March 7th report. We tabled that until after the public forums. So I'd like to open that discussion again and see if, what the interest is in that. And my reason for doing that is so that there would be time to consult with architects, licensed architects, to be able to somehow concretize, make more specific what some general concepts of a design might look like based upon on the findings of from all the data. So so that we could hand over to the council something that's a little more tangible than a narrative written report about feedback, because that's pretty much what we're going to have, probably with some recommendations based upon the feedback also, but not anything that, you know, we can see in a drawing.
So to that, as Sherry said, we know we're here at the leisure of the mayor. I did ask for some feedback, and Melanie said she wasn't sure that the mayor would be on board with that. So I mean, I didn't approach them, but I do rely on her for a lot of, you know. Yes, ma'am.
I think we can ask again, and that could be part of our recommendations as well, just a potentially recommending. I think we've put so much good faith into hearing from the people of Corrales about what they want. I would hate to see that just get tabled somewhere. So I think it would be advantageous for the village to let us continue our work. And if we do have the potential of pushing forward, working with some architects or not working with some architects, whatever we end up deciding, I just feel like 3 more months would be a great extension. That's my personal opinion.
The council needs to weigh in, the mayor and the council. So I think regardless of what preliminary feedback we're getting about whether there is consent by the mayor to extend the time period of this committee, we as a committee have the responsibility to make a recommendation about what we feel is correct and in the best interest of the village. So I recommend that we extend the life of this committee and request that of the council and the mayor so that we can finish up our work and have something tangible to present to them.
Well, I agree with Sherry. I think that should be part of our recommendation as far as what we propose.
Was that a motion, Ken?
Yes.
I second it.
Yeah, then all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, then that's what we'll do. Fine. Anybody else on the committee have anything towards that? Nothing? Lawless with you guys?
I guess my only concern, since I didn't vote yes, is that I don't know that we're going to get an architect. I mean, is the village going to pay for one? I mean, I don't know how that would work. So I like the idea, and I think that would be a valid use of time. If we don't have the services of a licensed architect, I'm not sure what we would do with the extra 3 months. So that was why I didn't vote yes.
Oh, okay.
So I would think we'd be remiss if we didn't ask for that, for an architect. If they deny it, that's not on the committee. That's on them. But all we can do, and I've mentioned to you before, is all we can do to put forth good effort ethically and, you know, transparently, and get public input and put forth what we think should happen. And if they don't approve that, that's not on us. I think that's all we can do as a committee.
Mr. Chairman. So I did vote yes. And the reason I did is that I hadn't heard the explanation that Ken gave for why 3 more months. But when I heard it here today, I realized this is an opportunity for the mayor to fulfill his commitment to us in our first meeting that we would be working with an architect.
Mm-hmm.
So in keeping with what Johnny just said, give him the chance to live up to that.
And actually, in the resolution, it says that we would do updates to the architecture,
Yes.
but we haven't been given the tools to do it.
So I think we need to ask for the tools, you know, in the form of licensed architect that's independent and not currently affiliated. And he also we have several retired architects in the village. And, you know, Ed is one, Mr. McKernan is another, and he said there are others in the village also. And there may be a possibility that some of our retirees and maybe those that are maybe still active could assist in that, because it never hurts to have more than one opinion. And, you know, if we have a group of architects that we can work with, either paid or pro bono, all the richer we are for their expertise, you know, to be able to inform the council and the mayor about, you know, what's best based upon the data. So I think we could pursue both the someone that is paid by the village to consult with us on a set of drawings, as well as tap the rich resources we already have in the village of the experience of architects that are willing to donate some time.
So I was talking with Pat this morning about some ideas she had regarding a facility. And one of the things that I mentioned to her, or that we discussed, was while I feel that's a good idea to get architectural input, I ultimately think that at the end we should present, this is a wants, needs assessment of the information we've gathered from the community, and maybe we could have inputs from architects as far as things that should be or can be included. But ultimately, I think at the end of the day, we should present that, and that gets sent out for bid to people that know what they're doing. They're professionals in whether it be sound or theater or meeting space, what have you. But we can send those out to bid, because if I didn't like the process that was gone through before, where we had a drawing, but really there was no, and we've all kind of agreed that there was no acousticians, you know, consulted. You know, there wasn't anything as far as keeping in line with the architecture that's consistent with the village, stuff like that. So I think while we could get architectural input, which I think is very important, I think we should be able to collect that information and submit that, and ultimately that would go out for bid. Because if I remember correctly, the mayor wanted us to come up with refining this process, and then ultimately he was going to try to get a virtual, I guess what we would call it, a
Virtual
virtual
rendering of the building.
virtual rendering of the building. Big words. So that's going to cost money. So I don't see why that would be any different than sending something out for bid, because people that want the job usually are not going to charge. They're going to try to put the best product forth so that the village will actually buy into that. Yes, sir.
Our product at the end of this process is going to be a supported needs statement. It's not a design process. This is what we feel the village needs. Now, the council and the mayor have to figure out whether they agree with that need, and if they are going to agree with it, how they're going to execute it.
And that's consistent with what I'm saying. That's what I mean. I think there's room for that, incorporating expertise from people that we have within the village. I think those can work together. I don't know, what say you, Mr. Architect?
Well, our charge is to refine a plan that we were given. And so for me anyway, the needs assessment is critical. I agree with you, Rick, on that. But I think if we're expected by council and the mayor to show a revised design or refined design, taking words from the resolution, then it takes some professional assistance. And by the way, architects have marketing budgets, so they are willing to do a certain amount of work pro bono in order to get a project. You don't have to just walk in with your checkbook to hire an architect.
Well, so far, our process has been free. I don't think the village has spent a dollar or a penny on anything that we've done, even the copying of things or whatever, that we may have done ourselves or that you all have done as a public to get people informed about public forums and that sort of thing. So it's been a very cost-effective for the village, in terms of our work. Now it's time, I think, for some financial investment of the village in order to make something of this as opposed to just another report on a shelf. And I think that that's the important thing, is that it be useful, functional, and helpful, to the village, not only based upon the work we've done, but all the work that the village residents have done in terms of expressing their opinions. And
Well, I think we could incorporate all of that. I mean, everything we've said, I think they all work together. It's just a matter of us formatting that and into something that's presentable. Because I agree with Rick completely. I mean, we're not architects, and so and architects know that there's more to it than what they're able to do at this point. Of course.
I've received a lot of emails from people out there with lots of comments. I want to let you know that what I'm doing with those, I'm bringing those to our meeting as well. A lot of it's already been put into, it's been written down, but we want to make sure we've captured everything. But I'm making PDFs out of all of the emails. I'm going to put them on a jump drive and get that to the village so that that is not lost. We have that information for them to do what they need to do with, and all of anything having to do with the questionnaire, any of that kind of stuff, or our anecdotal, our hard copy, our work copies and stuff, we will add that to the jump drive so it goes to the village. So none of this is lost because of us. Okay.
And you've done a lot of work, and I appreciate that. So, okay, well, any other inputs regarding that piece? Nothing? Okay, well, then I guess we can move to, unless you guys have anything else, we can move to public comment. Before you speak, I just want to address this. I received feedback, some of the YouTube links had been taken down for some of our meetings, but I did get on this morning and I found 3 of them. I think that's all we had. I believe it was the 19th of November, then we had the 5th and the 21st of December. So I think that was all of them, but they were not in the same place. So I don't know if they've been taken down, but I was able to find them. So that's very important for us as a committee, that we have everything on record and that we can go back and look at it. So I want you to know that that's important to us too. I'm sure it's important for you folks. So that said, I guess we can open it up to public input. 3 minutes. If we have to cut you off, we're not trying to be rude, but just please understand. So are you our timer?
I'm ready. So it looks like the first one, if I don't say your name correctly, I apologize. Doug Castile, is that correct? And you'll have 3 minutes.
Good morning, committee members.
Morning.
I wanted to be the first, since I'm speaking first, to thank you for the forums that we had. It was very insightful. And we particularly appreciate all of your participation, those of you that went. For the sake of redundancy, we have all selected different topics to talk about. Oftentimes it's interrelated, so we may waver over what our particular topic is. So bear with us within 3 minutes. I wanted to thank some of our member groups. There's some very good business heads in our committee members, mostly women, and financial and fiscal responsibility is of utmost importance. Before I start talking about my subject, traffic, I want to say that I would like to make a recommendation to the mayor and the council that they make an independent study transparent to all the village members in the form of a pro forma for this new proposed project. Having been young and dumb and was in the development business, I know how they work. They're a great tool for developers, investors, and even communities. It takes scenarios over 1 to 5, 5 to 10, or any way you want to do it at different interest rates. And it kicks back how much money that they think they can earn out of this, how much money it will cost, and can the income from a project like this sustain the cost of it. And I think that's something that the public should be able to see, and it should be done by an independent person who can do this pro forma. Now I'll go on to the my impressions of the meeting that town halls that we had, that almost everybody that addressed out of the 275 people and 90 some odd people or 80 people that talked, almost everybody said, without exception, maybe one or two, their biggest issue was the traffic in Corrales. And I feel strongly that no project should continue on until those traffic issues are addressed and some type of solution is offered. Because it's like fanning the fire unless you do that solution first. So anyhow, with Pat McClernand and of course Dr. Fred Hashimoto have said some interesting things. We found some figures about traffic counts, and that 12,000 cars a day pass Jones Road within a 24-hour period. You break that down, say 90% during the day. So you do the math, and basically what it equates out to is you get about 15 cars every minute or 4 cars every second. Now those figures are much lower as you go to the north end of Corrales.
I'm sorry, but that's your time unless they want to extend you for an additional minute.
Just finish your point.
Okay, I've got a lot to talk about next time. But anyhow, last parting comments. My own unscientific, very unscientific observations are, and I've followed during rush hour cars from the intersection at Corrales and Alameda turning in through Corrales. I've done this out of my own curiosity. I've done it 4 times, and I've tracked the cars ahead of me, and all 4 of them went through Corrales up to Rio Rancho. We have a real issue there, and depending where you are in Rio Rancho, you cut out 4 stop signs or stoplights by going through Corrales, coming and going. So bear this in mind. I'm not advocating anything yet, but Los Ranchos has had a 15-mile or 25-mile-an-hour speed limit for now 10 years on Rio Grande. And except at rush hour, there's no traffic on Rio Grande, and you can leisurely go down and collect your thoughts. May not be a bad idea. It's something we should consider. Thank you.
I don't know if all of you folks were at both of the meetings that we had at both the open forums. The one thing I did say is I know that we have the Sandia Bar that's coming, that's finishing the renovation. We have the Priest House that was approved, some type of event venue. We have the gym that's just going to be opening up here soon. And then they were talking about this building. So I personally thought, and I think it's fair to volunteer this information again, I personally thought that we should see how those present projects affect the village before we stuff anything else in. That's my 2 cents, because, and then the school is gonna go K-8. Now, I don't know how that's gonna affect traffic, but I know they're gonna have to rebuild, and they're gonna have to add on to that. So there's 4 big building projects, or 4 building projects, I'll say that, in the village that are yet to manifest within about a half-mile radius. So I think that's important, and that's something you folks will have to speak to your counselors about. But I do think that's a valid point that's worth mentioning for those of you that missed it the first time.
Great. Okay, so your next speaker is Sabine Schurter. Is that correct? I'm sorry if I didn't say that right. And you'll have 3 minutes.
I'm Sabine Schurter. I live on 47 Rincon Road. We were talking a little bit about needs assessment and design considerations. I would like to add a third consideration is the need to consider our village ordinances. The lighting and the noise ordinances, for instance, were passed to keep the rural feel of our village and to protect residents from noise and lighting. So when I saw this current design, and I know it's not the final design, but if we do any other designs or we have to look at them, please consider that like an outdoor performance space will most likely violate the lighting and the noise ordinances. And what about the residents nearby? I think it means something to protect them. So let's face it, dark skies in Corrales are becoming scarce, especially in downtown. It is a downtown by now. Just drive down Corrales Road at night and see for yourself. As for ACE, an outdoor performance space will require lighting, and eventually there will be a big parking area, and for safety, there will be more lighting. So what will be done about that? Then the Corrales noise ordinance prohibits amplified music, whether by a resident or a business, disturbing any person or business in the area at any time of the day or night. And there is no so-called quiet time. It's not like businesses or residents can make noise till 10 o'clock p.m. without any repercussions. So the current ACE design provides for an outdoor performance space. So we will have amplified music. So both ordinances are already being violated by some Corrales businesses who create noise and light pollution with impunity, I must say, and often unbothered by law enforcement, which I find very concerning. And I'm just talking about a few businesses. Most businesses are good businesses and good with their neighbors. I don't want to blame everybody here. So my message to this committee, to the council, and Main Street as a major driver of development in our downtown area is simple. Please don't plan village facilities that will violate Corrales law. And don't please attract, recommend, support businesses whose business plan relies on violating Corrales law. Don't do that. Please support and show respect for our community and our laws, meant to protect residents and businesses and our village. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. Sabine, could I ask a question, please? You referred to an outdoor performance space in the design that was prepared by the previous committee.
That's on the right side of the design.
It's called a courtyard in this case, is that
I guess
it?
it's a courtyard with a stage. That's how I read the design.
Okay.
So it's an idea.
I don't remember the stage, but I'll look at the drawing
I think it
again.
has this little square there and it says stage. Yeah.
She's right.
Okay,
She's
thank
right.
you. Thank you.
Okay, next we have Bill Perkins. Oh, okay, no problem,
No,
no
you
problem.
have to
We can
speak
still
now.
say hello. Hi, how are you? Okay, Fred Hashimoto, please.
Hi, and Fred Hashimoto, thank you very much. Really appreciate what you're doing and hearing public input. Anyway, reading Ken Dukert's Corrales comment piece this week, we all learned something new and shocking, that the recurring price tag of the Performing Arts Center / MUF would be in the $350,000 per year range. Who is going to pay that? He said, quote, use of the auditorium will be the primary source of funds, unquote. Some possible facility uses were enumerated, but funding from them seems sparse. Using his listing, number one, music in Corrales, seemingly the ultimate driver for this project. It probably pays $300 per performance, the nonprofit rate at the old church. Ken mentions 8 concerts a year, which translates to $2,400 a year for MUF revenue. We heard at the last forum that perhaps more concerts will be held. Well, dividing $350,000 by 300 calculates that 1,200 such performances, that's over 3 a day, would be needed to offset operational expenses. This is a hyperbolic example, but generating $350,000 is not easy, even with grants and donations. And the increased traffic on an already very busy Corrales Road from many performances and practices will not please the average Coraleño. Number two, Corrales Elementary School. It will not be renting space at the MUF. They are building their own multi-million-dollar new facility to accommodate 50% increase enrollment to include 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. The structure will be up to 40 feet high and will undoubtedly include its own auditorium. Number three, Adobe Theater, which many months ago was touted as a possible anchor tenant, has been happy at its 4th Street location. They currently pay about $50,000 a year to rent that space. Even if the Adobe Theater moved with its $50,000 a year to the MUF, still a $300,000 operational deficit remains. Number four, volunteer and nonprofit community groups such as Heartstrings and 4-H and Corrales Arts Center classes will not generate much revenue. The last funding source mentioned was number five, us, the public. Ken states that if revenue falls short of operational expenses, quote, the village will need to underwrite the center, unquote. This might be hundreds of thousands of dollars annually. Do we want to pay that? We have not been asked. The $350,000 annually recurring price tag is big. This item needs to be carefully considered before moving forward with plans. Thank you very much.
I have a question for everybody. I don't know how the schools work, Sherry, maybe you know, or maybe there's somebody out there. I know that oftentimes people can rent out school space, or how does that work?
It's getting really hard. I oversee cohorts of student teachers, and we used to be able to meet in classrooms at different schools, but particularly, I mean, there's a lot of reasons. COVID was one of them, trying not to overload the schools, but the other one is security, and that's a big issue nowadays. It's harder and harder and harder to be able to go in and use a space for something than what it used to be. It used to be just a call to the principal, and it was an easy get. Now you have to go through a facilities management committee, and they have to approve the whole thing. Now that doesn't mean that you can't use it. It's just not as simple as it used to be, and oftentimes they will deny you if they feel like it's going to be it's going to add a security issue to the school, because they have to add security, their own security. They have to add their own custodial services, and those are all contractual, union represented folks, and so they don't job out those to independent people. So there's a lot that goes into it nowadays than what it used to be back in the old days, where we used to go and have spaghetti dinners at the Sandoval Elementary. But so it is really different. So I don't know how much this auditorium, if they're even going to have an auditorium. I haven't seen the plans for the school yet, nor have I asked. But I don't know how much they would really allow the public. I know when I asked if we could have a meeting there, they said you have to go through the facilities committee, and it was going to be a 3-month approval time. So it's just not that simple anymore. And you have to understand, so much of it is about security nowadays for our children and for the staff and faculty that work in those schools.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, we used to have farms there, and I remember council, we had farms there, and they're in the cafeteria, and they were very generous. But I agree, it's a lot more issues now.
We had everything there in the beginning, if you remember, the incorporation of the original village. It all took place in the elementary school. But those days they were just yesterday,
We're getting older.
Thank you.
Speak for yourself, Fred.
Okay, next up is Marty Sanchez.
Good morning, committee members.
Good morning.
Audience.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for everything that you all have been helpful with us and allowing us to have some of these open meetings and also the forums. I'm delighted that those happened, and I thank you so much, especially for those of you who attended and all the people who had input. One of the things that struck me, following up on what Fred is saying, this hit me a couple of days ago when we were having our meeting. We do take our topics and we divvy them up into who's going to have their pet topic, the thing they're most passionate about. One thing hit me that I didn't realize I was passionate about until just recently was the fact that there is no more going down Corrales Road and seeing the alfalfa fields. There's very little of being able to see any kind of vegetation that we've generated. We used to do that all the time. I took it for granted, and I'm very, very sorry I did, because my grandson's not seeing that. He has no clue what I'm talking about. The four-way stop, Corrales and Alameda, was all alfalfa. All 4 sections where those restaurants and places are. It was a 4-way stop. It was all alfalfa. That's a thing of the past. The people who have come here because these specific kinds of atmospheres and values appeal to them. Yes, we're a community of arts people. I'll never deny that. But the thing of it is, we need a siphon for our farmers. We're not going to have water again. What is this, year 2, year 3? I've lost track. I looked it up the other night. I thought originally, Rio Grande Conservancy said it was going to be like $8 million to repair that whole thing. Well, it struck me as ironic as all get out. We're looking at an $8 million, at least startup proposal for this project. Where are our community values anymore? I just don't feel them here. Having to work with you all and with this wonderful group at least has given me a feeling again that it's still there. We're still gente. We're still vecinos. We just needed to be reminded of that. And I think this project has reminded many of us of that. What are we really all about? Thank you.
Ms. Sanchez, I need to commend, actually you folks, Pat DeVivi, myself, and Mr. Miera met to talk about the PR for the open forum. And so we discussed some things, and Mr. Miera came up with the flyer that one of you folks had generated. And then I saw some posters or some yard signs around the village, and I asked Mr. Miera about it, and apparently that's something that you guys paid for yourselves also. So I don't know if everybody's aware of that, but a lot of the PR stuff that you saw around the village was you folks that backed up your talk with your money. So I think that is very important. You mentioned the siphon. For those of you that don't know, I remember the clear ditch. Actually, if you walk the clear ditch and you go north, and I doubt it does it anymore, but you would see the water, and as you walked, it got less and less and less, because when you got to the end, it was an aquifer was coming up. There was a spring that came up, and so the clear ditch was all just naturally percolating out of the soil there. So I don't know anymore if the clear ditch has got water, and I'm assuming that's where it's coming from still. But it's quite a sight to see. I challenge everybody. Take a walk to the north end, the clear ditch, and walk till you start seeing the water come up from the ground. And that used to fill that whole clear ditch. It used to be really deep. Anyways, I was remembering that now that you said that.
Okay, and your last speaker is Rudy Miera, please.
Thank you for your time. We were just talking about, well, you started off the discussion talking about architects, so I'm going to focus on that. When we opened up a new high school in Santa Fe, the first thing that went into the trophy case was not a trophy for basketball or cheerleaders or football or anything like that. It was a cover of a magazine called Architecture Today or Architectural Digest. And there was a picture on the cover, and I looked at it and I thought, what is weird? What's wrong with this picture? There were no people in it. It was a picture taken at night. There were no students, no teachers, anything like that. So the first day of school, kids arrived tardy for classes. I thought it's the first day of school. The second day of school, students still were arriving tardy. I thought, this is a bit much. I know some of them are freshmen or sophomores. And by Wednesday, I started saying, what's going on? And the kids started telling me, well, Mr. Mieta, there's a log jam at the staircase because the architect, who had never designed a school before, did not design a staircase that allowed for upstairs traffic and downstairs traffic, okay? So what was happening was at every class period, there was a traffic jam. By Thursday, it wasn't too funny because one of the students came and said, you know what, Mr. Mieta, there was a fight because people are trying to get to class and they don't want their teacher to get pissed off because they're tardy. By Friday, there was a fight all 6 periods of the day. And so it took the shop teacher and some of us teachers to provide what was lacking in the oversight by the architect, which was to put a dividing line and so that we had up and down traffic. It had resulted in violence, unnecessary violence. That's not the whole story. This was in August. 2 months later, in October, was the darkest day in the history of Capitol High School. I knew something was going on because I heard people distressed, and I came down from my second-story classroom, went down to the bottom, and I saw there was something happening out in the parking lot, so I ran out there. Just to let you know, at Capitol High, they had one lane that would come in for buses and students driving and parents to pick up their kids, and there was one lane going out. Now, at the end of the day, what we were noticing was that the kids who drove their own cars were trying to hurry to get out before the buses came, because then there was a traffic jam outdoors, okay? So when I went out there was a young man with a jacket over his body. He had been killed by a young man, another man who was driving. Design important is all right, is important, but outside, external design. An architect who had never designed a school had not planned for what the traffic patterns of students, teenagers would be. He was a rookie. He didn't know what he was doing. He hadn't taken input from the community, from teachers who could have told him, yes, kids are going to go out. I guess my time is done. But let me just say this. When we're talking about if and when there may be a design for a community center, and if and when that design center gets input from the community, the outside traffic patterns are absolutely critical. Because a 16-year-old boy lost his life because of somebody who didn't take input from the community and who didn't know what he was doing, failed to recognize unanticipated occurrences like this. Let me close by saying, in this process, let us make sure that we think about traffic, because in the end, it's a life or death issue.
Thank you all for your inputs. Do we have anything for committee members?
It's not.
Come on, Ed.
Well, to the extent that Mr. Mieta pleads for experience and professionalism, 100% support.
Pat, do you have anything?
Nothing.
How about you, Mr. Snow? Sherry? Yeah. Again, I want to thank Sherry for all the work that she's done on the data collection, and Ken and Barb and Ed, they got together to do all that stuff. Pat, for your work with the PR stuff, Mr. Mieta. So I appreciate everybody working together and talking about stuff. And so, no other business. Real quick, I'm not going to be here on the 15th because I have some previous business scheduled. I make a motion to let Ken Martinez chair the next meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so Ken, you can chair the meeting on the 15th. I imagine that'll be a good meeting, that we have a lot of information kind of all put together at that one time. Yes, ma'am. You can always.
Are you able to give your input through the statement or somehow from that meeting?
So I always have input, whether it's respected or not. I always have input, but to be honest with you, there's going to be a lot of data crunching, and that's pretty much the majority of what's going to take place. We actually talked a little bit about closing this thing up. I said, you know what, I'm thinking we all have different opinions. Maybe we should all kind of write our own 2 cents, what we think, and present that before the committee, before the council. And then I mentioned that to some committee members. They said, no, it's data driven, so whatever data dictates, that's what we should put together, and that's something we could be uniform on. So I think I'm gonna have to kind of fall back to that second comment, in that everything's gonna be data driven. So yes, I have input, but this next meeting is about how they're gonna facilitate moving forward with the data that they have. I will probably try to zoom in if I can, but if not, I'll call. And these folks are great folks, and we all communicate fairly well. I didn't know pretty much everybody. Well, I didn't know any of these folks. Well, I knew Ken a little bit, but I hadn't met them before. And I got to tell you that they're all good folks, and they're all very ethical and reasonable in working with them. So I'm always able to talk to them. And I challenge you folks to do the same, because they do listen to what you have to say. So.
And I think the 15th won't be the last day to give input. I think we'll be refining it on the 29th, and there'll be a couple of written revisions. So I think he'll have a chance.
And I still get emails from folks, and then I forward them to the whole group. So if you have my emails. If you don't, I know that you folks talk. You can get it, or ask me after this meeting, and I always forward what I gather to the whole group. I want, at the end of the day, and I just mentioned it this morning, somebody was to open my computer, look at my email, everything is public. There's nothing that I have, no hidden agendas, so anybody can look at my stuff at all times. So that's the communication that I've established with these folks. So I do have input, and they do receive, and it's working, I think. Does that answer your question? I don't.
Yes.
I will try to zoom in on that day. I'll just be absent in body. Anything else? You folks, nobody, nothing else? Real quick, Ms. Sanchez?
I don't even know if this is correct to ask right now, but I'm going to ask it anyway. If you all as a committee decide to want to ask.
Can you come to the microphone so that it's
Good idea.
captured?
Normally I told to shut up, but okay. If you all do decide to ask the council for more time, if you all agree and decide to ask for that, what are the chances that they will do it? Do you guys have any idea whatsoever?
We don't know.
Because it seems like one of the biggest issues is that you all have put so much hard work into all of this and so much of your time, and it's stopping. I mean, the deadline's here, you're stopping, but it's not all covered, and it's not just for us, but I'm thinking for you all. So I don't know, if we need to approach them, talk to them, ask them for additional time or not.
Well, the truth of the matter is that we don't even have a say as far as, what we present is not a voting matter for the village. We're presenting something to the mayor and the council for them to make decisions on, right? And so you folks just need to be in your counselor's ear.
Okay.
That's what I got to say.
But we could do that, is request from them.
Of course. Even if we decided not to, you could say, I think they should. That's
Johnny, you can also attend council meetings, and during the Corraleños, and I know I've seen you there before, you can sign up and definitely, bring it to their attention. We do not have any money for this. So this is, the very early stages of planning. So they haven't discussed about extending, and at least I haven't heard any of it, but you're welcome to come to our meetings and, let your voice be heard. That's important.
And I don't know how you find this stuff out, but the legislature's in session right now. So I think there's probably people trying to get monies for the village for different things. So those of you that are smart on those processes, I recommend you look into that, because there very well could be somebody right now trying to get money for something here in the village that we don't know about. So that's what we have our our legislators for. So it's very obvious that we don't know all that's going on. I mean, I didn't realize everything that was going on until where I was on this committee. You folks didn't know what was going on until you were out there. So I think that's how we run our lives every day. We don't know a lot of what's going on. And that's our fault. So look into those things and find out.
I think it's real important that you contact your counselors from your districts and out of your districts too about what you want. Do you think this requires more time of the committee and more deliberation and an architect or architects and the money to support that? They need to hear from you. We're one voice and you are many voices. And you need to say what you feel is, needed and important to you all, whether it's extending or not extending. I mean, they just need to hear from you about it. And I think not only in council meetings, but individually with your own counselors.
Sir?
Can I make one real brief comment?
Real brief. Come up to the mic.
You're not capable of making a brief comment.
I'm not. Thank you anyhow, but anyhow, there's an undercurrent and grumbling that I've felt from people in the village regarding the spending again on perhaps this new project. And there is some considerations for incompetence or not a vote of confidence for the spending on a larger project because of the animal control thing. And I just wanted to say that, and I think we need more time on the survey. I don't think that's going to be totally representative. It'll help, but there's gaps that haven't been filled in, and the only way to fill in those gaps is through extension of time. So thank you again.
I'm just kidding with you, Doug. I did. I said that. I said I'm just teasing you, Doug.
All right, gente. Is that it? Is that it? Okay, so I make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Second.
We have a second, and the rest you say? Aye. Okay. Be a good neighbor. Have a great day.